on in your local area or what have you, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. I am on X. You can @ me at Pigeons420. You can share stories with me, and we can go over something that's important to you. As, of course, I live in a relatively small area in the planet, and I live in a bubble. And it's hard for me to find stories that are going on everywhere. So if there's something that speaks to you that you think will speak to us, I want to hear from you. But we're going to be jumping into the news. All right, let's go. CannaNews. All things culture, science, and health. Your one-stop shop for all things CannaNews. All right. So the first thing I got here, as I mentioned, it is a crazy time in the world of herb right now. And I was strolling through stories to cover, and I ran into this one. This is mammals with the munchies, curing animals with our plant. I thought this was an interesting story because it kind of highlights the fact that humans aren't the only ones that can benefit from this plant. And I know that vets are already using our plant in order to heal pets, but listen to this. Like many captive elephants, Nydia suffered from chronic foot problems. She probably complained to her chiropractor. Fissures had formed in the 55-year-old elephant's foot pads, and her toenails had cracked and become ingrown. Painful abscesses lingered for months. So doctors, they thought CBD would help. And as a matter of fact, it did. They started low and eventually settled on a dose of 0.02 milligrams of CBD per pound of Nydia's weight, which she took daily with a chunk of fruit. Calibrated by weight, the dose is 1/10 to 1/14 of what the doctors give dogs or cats. Yet it worked. First signs of the treatment was effective was when Nydia developed a serious case of the munchies. Within days of starting her CBD, she went from finishing just 1/3 of her food to virtually all of it, and sometimes even went for seconds. Within 5 weeks, she had gained 555 pounds. Now, we're not judging weight. She was probably still beautiful, but I guess that's a clear indicator that she was getting the munchies. Well, Nydia is a prime example of an elephant that is benefiting from the powers of our plant. So, there's that. Another one by marijuanamoment.net. Minnesota marijuana regulators ask lawmakers to fix a loophole that allows high THC raw to be sold as legal hemp. Minnesota marijuana regulators ask lawmakers to fix loophole that allows high THC raw product to be sold as legal hemp. Because the raw flower being sold isn't processed, the Office of Medical Cannabis believes it lacks authority to regulate it. Hence, the law is needed. Unfortunately, I suppose that sucks for you guys in Minnesota, but hopefully we just see sheer legalization across the board and it won't be something that we have to worry about. Now, when it comes to our plant, I want to focus on not just the great, but I want to focus on everything as a whole, and that includes the negative side of this plant. It'll do nobody any service if we just think that this plant is perfect, it has no problems, and it can be taken by everyone. That is a facade. That is false. And I think some people could get seriously sleepy if given that advice. So, and I just mean, I was being a little facetious, but I just mean that you can give somebody the wrong dose or the wrong advice, assuming that anyone and everyone can just have access to this. But there's a recent study that suggests that cannabis use is linked to higher anxiety disorder. The summary of this is coming out of the neurosciencenews.com. Now, this might not be any news to anyone, but when it comes out of here, I want to share it. A comprehensive study found a significant association between emergency department visits for our plant use and the development of new anxiety disorders. Analyzing health data from over 12 million Ontarians, these are onions from Canada, the research revealed that individuals who sought emergency care for this use exhibited nearly 4-fold increase in the risk of being diagnosed with an anxiety disorder within 3 years compared to the general population. Additionally, the study highlights the potential for cannabis use to exacerbate existing anxiety symptoms. These findings underscore the complexities of this plant use and its impact on mental health, challenging the perception of this plant as a benign substance and pointing to the need for caution in its medicinal and recreational use. I think that's a very fair statement based on the findings. Now, does it mean that it's only these or only this product that led to these disorders or this increase? No, I don't believe those are the only factors. But I think based on the evidence that has already been put forward in regards to how this plant affects our mood, both positively and negatively, it's not a surprise to me that if you have maybe predisposed conditions, or if you have something that, or if you have a medical issue and you take this, if you use this substance, this plant, it could exacerbate or it could increase the side effects. Does that mean that we should stop using it? No. But what I think that does mean is we do need further research when it comes to trying to figure out what is the right amount for the most amount of people, and how can we get this to the most amount of people and not have as much harm? How can we reduce the risks? So it's a very interesting study. I encourage you to read more. You saw the article on there. That's neurosciencenews.com. Go check that out. I encourage you to read a little bit and ask questions. If you have any questions right now or in regards to any story that we cover, please don't hesitate to ask. Please don't hesitate to ask, because I'd love to dive into something or any of these stories. Another story coming out of the Washington Post. Running sober versus high. How weed affects your workout. This one's interesting for me because myself, along with a lot of other people, I think anecdotally can say that helps significantly when it comes to the performance of my performance when it comes to the gym. People smoke, I'm going to have to edit this all out later, but whatever. People smoke this plant for a variety of reasons, including for pleasure and to unwind. Now, new research has found another benefit. Getting high can make exercise more enjoyable. Well, hopefully it's as effective, though. The study included more than 36 runners who were experienced users when they smoked or vaped before exercising on a treadmill. They enjoyed their run experience more. Oh my God. With a greater sense of euphoric runner's high compared with when they ran sober. Could you imagine? I couldn't imagine getting someone just baked out of their tree and they're just running. It's like he's having fun. He's having way more fun now than he was when he was not high. It's like, oh, how did they measure this? Angela Bryan, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at University of Colorado Boulder, said her team initially began studying the issue because they wanted to understand how the legalization of cannabis would affect public health. At the time, they theorized that legalization might worsen the obesity epidemic in the United States, but initial research suggested users might be more active than expected. Dun, dun, dun. The team gathered information using surveys of users and found that many of those who responded believed the product motivated them to be more physically active, and that it not only increased their enjoyment while working out, it also enhanced their recovery. As someone who does pay attention a little bit to the UFC and to sports in general, I do know that there are a number of athletes, particularly in the NFL and in the UFC, that are using this plant to better enhance their performance as athletes. And I think it's great that we're starting to see that there are studies that support this. An unfortunate circumstance for somebody. A licensed grower in Humboldt County is on the hook for $750,000 to settle environmental violations at the Emerald Triangle cultivation site. This is a high-time story, and they're reporting that a Humboldt County grower will pay at least $750,000 to settle a dispute with state water and wildlife agencies over alleged environmental violations at a 435-acre cultivation site in California's famed Emerald Triangle. In the settlement agreement, licensed grower Joshua Sweet and his companies, The Hills LLC and Shadowlight Ranch LLC, admitted to violations of state water regulations over a period of several years. Multiple violations of the site. The settlement cites several violations, including building an unpermitted pond on a waterway to collect water for irrigating plants. Other violations include the destruction of wetland habitats and stream channels, converting oak woodland to cultivation, and failure to work with the state and local officials to satisfy permitting regular requirements. Wow, that's unfortunate. I think it's imperative that if we're going to start taking on the cultivation of this plant, that we are responsible for it. There's absolutely no reason we should be polluting our waterways. There's absolutely no reason we just should be destroying any kind of land or wildlife if it's not necessarily needed and or permitted. So it sounds like it's an unfortunate circumstance. But if they're pleading guilty to these, then it sounds like the system is somewhat working, and people are being held responsible for their actions when it comes to polluting the planet. Happy birthday to the DEA. Happy birthday to the war on drugs. Yeah, sounds ludicrous. I thought so too. That's what I thought when I saw the post on the DEA's X account that was celebrating the war on drugs. Yeah, pathetic. X users are calling out the official DEA account to take down a post celebrating the war on drugs that was posted February 1st. On February 1, the official X account of the DEA posted a photo of former President Richard Nixon and a caption meant to celebrate the legacy of the war on drugs. But the comment section didn't go as planned. Making things worse, the DEA posted it on the first day of Black History Month. Oh. Where's your finger on the pulse there, DEA? Oh gosh, that stings. Which is especially ironic given that these laws were unfairly enforced, mostly on Black and brown Americans. Ouch. The tweet was, or I guess the post, there's no tweets anymore. The post said, on December 14th, 1970, at the White House, the the DEA, presented, oh my gosh, sorry, I tried to abbreviate that. That's not what it said. The International Narcotic Enforcement Officers Association presented President Nixon with a certificate of special honor in recognition of the outstanding loyalty and contribution to support narcotic law enforcement. That's what the post read. I'm not entirely sure what kind of attention they're trying to get with a post like that, but that's pretty ridiculous. I can't think of many people that would think that the war on drugs has been any glimmer of success whatsoever, but more a stain on the history of the way the government treats its citizens. It's just another way to toss people in jail and not answer to right and wrong. It's totally unfortunate. However, I'm glad somebody is celebrating the DEA. This kind of starts off the kind of story I have where the government's, this is kind of a story that's going to lead into a few stories here where I really want us to think critically for a moment. I want you to remember, if you're new here, my name is Pigeons. I'm from Canada, where in 2018, we legalized this plant. Kind of. Some would argue it was Prohibition 2.0. And I want you to think about that, and I can give you reasons why after. But we're going to get into these next few stories as we round out the top of the hour. But I want you to think about this, okay? Texas. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is suing 5 cities over their policies around our plant, preventing enforcement of the Texas drug laws. This is right from, I think I have a different article than you do, babe, but this is the TexasAttorneyGeneral.gov article that I have. So right from the Texas Attorney General, I apologize. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has launched lawsuits against the cities of Austin, San Marcos, Kylene, Elgin, and Denton for adopting amnesty and non-prosecution policies that violate Texas laws concerning possession and distribution. So just when you think you're safe and you're free and you have the ability to you got to remember that there is always someone overwatching, and this is going to lead into the next story. But I want to just read this. The 5 municipalities adopted ordinances or policies instructing police not to enforce Texas drug laws concerning possession and distribution of our plant. Texas local government code forbids any political subdivision from adopting a policy under which the entity will not fully enforce laws relating to drugs. Further, the Texas Constitution notes that it is unlawful for municipalities to adopt ordinances that are inconsistent with the laws enacted by the Texas legislature. So, this is kind of the idea of federalism. I don't think federalism works on the state and municipal level. I think it's more of the definition between the federal and the state, but it's the same concept. It's the splitting of powers. Understand that even though your local ordinances or policies are stating one thing, that overarching government is always watching you, whether it's the state government in Texas or the federal government in the United States or in Canada or abroad. There are people watching, and you need to be weary of that. So if you're going to take on growing and taking on this plant, it's something that you need to keep in the back of your mind, that even though you might have the immediate right, or not right, but the ability to grow and possess, it might not be absolute. So be very careful. When I'm giving advice on things to do and things to choose and how to do it, often enough, the very first tip that I give is to please follow your local laws and ordinances, because I don't want to get anyone in trouble because you thought you could grow and it turned out you couldn't. So Texas, I'm sorry, but if you're in one of those cities, please be careful. Moving on to the next story. Wolf in weeds clothing, ladies and gentlemen. This reeks like a re-election. I'm not gonna put my political affiliations out there, because that's irrelevant to the conversation. But what I would like to discuss is politicians who disguise cannabis legalization in order to obtain the vote of the common people. It is something that's happened in the past. It's something that happened in my country. There are a number of people that will admit that they were first-time voters of the Liberal Party and or single-issue voters, where they only voted for the Liberal Party because they were promising legalization, which they did not do for 2.5 years after they were elected. So, got an article here by by Eminem. I'm just going to call it that from now on, so I don't have to say that nasty M word. That VP, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, touts the pardons in a pitch to black and young voters, saying nobody should be jailed for smoking weed. Although I agree with everything she says, this is what I'll dive in before I explain what I mean. The Vice President says that the administration's move to pardon people for federal possession offenses is an example of how it is delivering for Americans, particularly young and black voters, who could be key to the President Joe Biden's re-election bid this year. The White House also cites the cannabis clemency move in a new fact sheet on efforts to advance racial justices and equity and ensure the promise of America for all communities. Yep, womp, 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 womp. I'm sorry, I can't hear it anymore. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If your local politician or your political affiliate is promising you anything in regards to this plant, you need to be skeptical. You need to be skeptical, because it is it's very apparent that politicians are willing to wrap up other policies and other interests up into that single issue. And unfortunately, I will admit that as a gullible citizen, that sounds like a very great idea. Sounds like a very smart idea. Let's legalize herb. But you really need to know your candidates. You really need to know your politicians. You got to know where they stand. Why do I say that? Let's move on to the next story here in regards to Florida. If you recall, last week I announced that Governor Ron DeSantis announced that he was going to put the legalization of our plant on the next ballot. But guess what? Before it's even been voted on, there's already regulations coming down the pipe on capping the product THC and dosage. Forbes is reporting Florida lawmakers approved THC cap bill ahead of the ballot, the voting ballot. I'll read because it's like, oh, how much and where? Let me get into that. Florida GOP Senate lawmakers have approved legislation to cap THC levels on adult use, even though it is still illegal in the state. The move has been made as a preemptive measure to regulate a future ballot initiative ahead of the vote in November, when Floridians will be asked whether they want to legalize the use in the state. Here you go. The measure stipulates that smokable products may contain a maximum of 30% THC, which very clearly goes to show whoever's creating these laws have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. The cap on THC is 30% on smokable products. You're laughing. And you might be, oh, well, that's on vapes. Nope. That's the next one. Concentrates and vaporizers will be limited to 60% of THC, and edibles for personal use will be restricted to 200 milligrams of THC. Additionally, a single serving of an edible will not exceed a potency of 10 milligrams, which is great if you're trying to get a rodent high, but it's like, whoever wrote this has no idea. You're not finding weed more than 30% THC. Sure, someone's trying to sell you it for over 30% THC, but I hate to break it to you, it's not 30% THC, or at least not the buds you're smoking from whoever's telling you it's 30%. Now, of course, I understand THC plants have been tested at higher than 35%. However, I do think that is an anomaly, not the standard. So, yeah, funny. Hey, Florida, not even voted yet. You haven't even voted if you want it or not. And they're already telling you how you should take it. Yeah. Isn't that something? That's the news, ladies and gentlemen.